Dodge this!
Let the show be!
This moment will be frozen in time.
Kick. Hey everyone, it's Jinjings, and I guess I'm a Genshin math guy now. As you can probably tell from the title of the video and the thumbnail, I have made a big mistake. In the past few streams, in various Reddit comment threads I've been talking about, in Twitter and such, I have been talking about how when an enemy is frozen, they have an increased physical resistance. This is super wrong. I actually never got around to testing it, which is 100% on me because I don't remember who I heard that information from, but for some reason I trusted it at the time. I also haven't been feeling great lately, so it's entirely possible my sick brain just got some numbers confused. Speaking of which, Tuna did bring up that I probably shouldn't be talking about my mental and physical health every single video, so if you care about that kind of stuff, just follow me on Twitter. I update on there constantly about it. But yeah, again, I apologize so much about this. If you know anything about me, it's that I love math and I hate misinformation. So this video is here to correct that misinformation. I apologize for having spread that information around for like at least 2 weeks, and I really hope that this video can help combat some of that. Again, my bad. I am human and I do make mistakes, but I really should have tested this sooner. Huge thank you to Chester Co, who pointed this out in the comments and led to me actually doing proper freeze mechanics testing. So in that case, how does freeze actually work? And how do we build overpowered team comps based around it? Well, freeze actually has two parts. It has the freeze proc, which is the CC that freezes someone in place. And then if you hit the frozen enemy with either a greatsword character or with a geo attack, at least that's what I've been told, I haven't checked that yet, you trigger what's called a shatter, which breaks them out of the frozen status and is about 75% the damage of an overload proc of the same level, making it the second highest burst reaction in the game. Now, according to Chester Co, this does actually scale with your base attack, but from CN beta sources I've seen in terms of testing, it apparently scales the same as any other reaction with just level and EM. But I haven't fully tested either yet, so I'm not sure which one it is. Either way is extra damage. This is why either a Chongyun or a Razor are the ideal carries for any freeze team setup, because they can actually proc shadow off of all of the freezes. Now, while this kind of freeze comp does not have the same DPS potential as an actual overload comp with like Diluc or Bennett Ascension 4 or Keijing as your carry, there are some amazing synergies built into this kind of composition. So first off, if you have everyone stuck in a giant circle together, you can just freeze everyone and beat the people you want to beat on. Secondly, if you're running a Razor, this also gives you access to Superconductor as well as Electroshock. Now, normally mixing multiple reactions in the team comp is actually a bad thing if you want to optimize your DPS. This is because anything that shreds resistances or buffs that damage, so for example a Viridescent Venera proc, or something like Xiang Ling's Constellation 6 ability that gives you 25% more pyro damage while you have your ult active, or cup artifacts that have percent total damage increases on them don't apply to things that aren't the same element. Important side note though, this percent up for damage type does not apply to reaction damage except for Vaporize and Melts. However, reducing enemies' elemental resistance does, hence why Viridescent Venera is considered the best support set late game. That being said, if we're running a Razor, our comp is primarily a physical damage comp anyway, because Razor is the best physical carry in the game. So Electroshock and Superconductor are really just nice side bonuses, but not really the focus of the build. And things like Venera don't even work for physical damage anyway, but that's why we have Superconductor. When Cryo meets Electro, you get Superconductor, which deals some AoE damage. It's kind of low, but it has this weird mechanic where the damage goes up more the more enemies get caught in the AoE. But damage-wise, it's really not the best elemental reaction, but that's because it has a really juicy debuff on it. According to the wiki, it does reduce physical resistance by 50%, which is much bigger white numbers. Now, I have not personally tested this, so I'm not 100% sure if 50% is the correct value. Point is, it makes your physical damage much higher. The debuff lasts roughly 8 seconds or so. I haven't gone around to timing it, but either way, it's a good amount of damage and you don't have to trigger it too often. And just a little quick aside on how the math actually works with resistances, it doesn't actually make you do 50% more damage. Once a resistance shred drops an enemy below 0%, it then halves any further resistance shred in terms of effect. So for example, if an enemy starts with 20 physical resistance and we drop it by 50, then that means that the last 30 are only used half as much, hence we have a negative 15 physical resistance. Now if we take this new value of 115% physical damage versus the 80% we were dealing previously, we get a 43.75 increase in total damage, not shabby. This is why I consider Razor the easiest god tier carry to enable in the entire game, because all he needs to do really big white number damage is have a Kaya on his team, and Kaya is a free to play character. As you can see, my Razor here is level 60 and he's not even ascended, but the damage numbers be pretty big. Although one thing to keep in mind about the background footage is this dungeon does actually give you an extra 75% physical damage. I don't know if that's additive or multiplicative with resistances or the other bonuses in my kit, but either way, big numbers. I haven't actually even gone around to making an ideal set for him yet, because this is actually my Noel account where I'm stacking my Noel currently. Now, if we run Razor as the carry for this freeze comp, we also occasionally get Electro Shocks. Electro Shock is water plus Electro, and it's basically a chain lightning reaction that does do damage over time and does chain lightning around to other enemies. Over time, this is actually the highest damage elemental reaction, however, it does have less burst than just spamming Overload or Shatters on something. This is why you'll see when I am playing this comp on screen, if I do not have any ice orbitals from Kaya's ult active, I'll be trying to dash around and apply wet to targets with Barbara's E by making physical contact with the enemy with Razor and then hitting them with electro damage to just spread electroshock around the room. Also, a quick side note, so the way Elemental Mastery works is it increases the damage reactions that character causes. However, apparently, currently, electro reactions are always triggered by the electro character's stats. So this means you can run a level 1 Barbara or Xingqiu or Mona and still deal maximum electroshock damage as long as your Razor's leveled up, which is probably not intentional and likely a bug, but for the moment, enjoy it. Now, my team comp on screen is not really the ideal team comp because there isn't enough ice in the comp. I just don't have any other ice characters on this account. The focus of this comp is more on the electroshock damage and the physical damage from occasionally proccing Superconductor. We don't get to freeze things too much because I only have Kaya. If you want to run a Shatter comp instead, you ideally want to sub out Mona or Barbara for a Chi-Chi. See, if you want to freeze an entire group with that comp, all you have to do is use a charge attack with either Mona or Barbara, whoever's on your team, and then just pop everything on Kaya and Chi-Chi and everything gets frozen. Unfortunately, I just don't have the characters to do that on either of my accounts. On my main account, I don't have a Mona, and on this account, I do not have a Chi-Chi, so it's kinda rip in terms of personally playtesting the actual setups. Alright, now that we've talked about Razor in freeze comps, let's talk about Chongyun next. Again, with this one, I can unfortunately not test Chongyun carry setups because I just don't have a leveled up Chongyun. While my viewers on the streams have wailed so that I could get more character rolls to test more stuff out, by the way, thank you all so much for wailing. If you have any questions for me or you want me to help you optimize your team builds, or if you just want to watch me test out stuff live, be sure to check out my streams, #shamelesschill. But anyway, point is, I have not spent any money on whaling for resin, so I just have limited resources in terms of leveling up my characters. And honestly, I could whale for resin, but I actually like it better that way. I actually like the fact that I basically have to deal with the same amount of character experience and resources that general players do in this game. Because honestly, if you whale for resin and you have just crap loads of resources, it doesn't really matter what your builds or your team comp are because you will win by pure numbers. A big issue I've seen with other videos I've seen talking about builds is that they have no concept of cost efficiency for damage. See, if you can get everyone in your team to like level 80 or 60 or 50 and then also just max out all of their artifacts because you're swimming in resources from whaling for resin, then you don't really need a well-optimized team to succeed. But for those of us who do not actually have that wealth of resources at our availability, the actual gate for how much damage our teams can do is really based on how many resources we have to invest and how we choose to invest those. For example, a level 1 Dragon Slayer refined 5 on a Barbara that is level 1 will give you an average of 24% extra base attack on your carry for the entire fight if you micro properly. These drop like buckets from the gacha, so once you're late game, you will definitely have at least 5 of these to refine into each other, and it is like 6,000 Mora or something to get a giant damage boost for your carry the entire fight. But if your healer is a Jean or a Chi-Chi who is level 80 with a 5-star weapon and just everything maxed out, then obviously you're getting more damage out of that than a Barbara with just a level 1 book. But most of us don't have enough money for that, which is why I think those kinds of recommendations are really bad, honestly. And just to avoid any potential drama, I am not shitting on any of these YouTubers at all. I actually really like all of the ones I'm currently following, and I don't really have anything bad to say about them. I just think they don't really have the same perspective on how important optimizing your team is late game when you don't have crap loads of resources to throw around. Now, I'm not gonna say I'm completely free to play with resources, because I do have the battle pass and I do have the daily pass. But I do enjoy not wailing for resin, because having that resource restriction really forces me to really consider whether the investments I'm making are actually worth it for increasing my team's output. TLDR, I'm the kind of person who plays XCOM 2 and the other side with all the hardest difficulty settings turned on. Logistics puzzles are fun. Alright, side that over. Let's talk about Chongyun, who I have to talk purely in the theory crafting sense because, again, I just don't have the resources to make a Chongyun carry work in my current world level. In theory, the two ways you want to run Chongyun are either in a double ice double water comp or a single ice triple water comp. See, if Chongyun is your carry, you really don't care about having Electro on your team because he deals ice damage with his auto conversion into ice from his skill, so you don't need physical resistance reduction. Now, the main reason we run double ice is because A, the ice resonance does give you 15% extra crit chance on anything that is frozen or has cryo applied, which is generally most everything. But honestly, these resonances are cherries on top because they aren't the hugest damage boosts. The real reason why double elements in the team is so good is because you get to spam your ults a lot more. From what I've seen from testing in the CN beta, because again, I have not tested energy mechanics myself yet, if a character has the same elemental type as you and you generate energy orbs of that element type with your abilities, those teammates off the field get 3 times the energy recharge. So the main reason we would want to run a double cryo team is because yes, we get 50% crit chance, which is pretty neat, but it's because Chongyun gets to spam his E basically off cooldown if you have a Kyle or Chi-Chi in the team. However, this is also the same reason why we might want to run a triple water team if you do have Barbara, Mona, and Xingqiu. This will allow Mona ult, which is overpowered, Xingqiu ult, which is literally the reason you run him in the team, and Barbara ult, which is nice to have, basically be coming up much faster. And you don't really need more cryo applications with a Chongyun carry because he has enough cryo application to basically freeze everything standing inside his circle. The triple water comp is especially nice because honestly, even when you run double waters, Xingqiu's ult comes up so slowly. And theoretically, if you were to run 4-piece exiles on every single one of these characters, you would basically have an unending stream of water application on the field, so everything just gets frozen anytime Chongyun hits something inside of his circle. Now, I'm not sure if this would actually beat the double cryo, double water setup, because the double cryo will be hitting harder, but you'll get a lot more shatter procs running with Chongyun in a triple water setup. On the plus side, because these are such carry-focused team comps and we don't need the sub-carries to have high levels because we aren't using reactions for damage, you can basically run a level 70 or 80 Chongyun with a team of level 1s and still get basically the same effect. The shatter damage will always scale with Chongyun's Claymore hits anyway, so it doesn't really matter what level of EM or character level your other characters are. So feel free to try these out for yourselves if you do have a Chongyun carry, because as I said, I can't afford one right now. And let me know what you think of these compositions in the comments. But yeah, freeze comps, pretty good. This has pretty much become my go-to comp for my second Abyss team on this account, the other one just being a Noel battery comp, which I'll probably make a video on at some point because a lot of you have been asking about what exactly is a Noel battery comp. As always, thank you so much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed the video and it taught you something new or interesting, be sure to like the video, comment, and as well as share it with your friends. All of these things just help the YouTube algorithm push the video up more so more people can see it. And if you have any specific questions for me or would like any team comp recommendations, then be sure to check out our Discord server, the Mathless Nest. It's the best place to find me if I'm not currently streaming. If I'm not actively in the chat room at any particular time, feel free to ping me if you have questions. And of course, a huge thank you to our patrons who have been supporting us despite the 4-month hiatus I had to take for my mental and physical health. Y'all are the best. Alright, that's all I got for this one. I will definitely be streaming on the day that Klee comes out, which is tomorrow at some point in the evening if I remember correctly. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell and it'll let you know as soon as I go live on stream. And it also lets you know when videos are coming out, which is pretty cool too. Happy waifu hunting whalers, we'll see you in the next video. Bye!